Russia is legalizing cryptocurrencies again and regulating them for their citizens since they know they can't stop decentralized blockchain protocols. But is this the only reason from removing prohibition in Russia? At the same time, the South Korean courts have declared it illegal for their government to confiscate Bitcoin from their citizens. Now, this sends a message to regulators, but could this cause a trend in other nations across the world? And the largest U.S. options exchange may be adding Bitcoin futures and other derivatives. But will this two-way price discovery actually help stabilize the Bitcoin market? Or will this major money and institutional shorting cause serious FUD and major setups for market manipulation? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together, welcome to Minting Coins. Now, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being part of this video. We have a lot to talk about in terms of what we're hearing about in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market. We know a lot about the decentralized markets. We know a lot about the traditional markets. And with that, we just, at least there's a portion of the people in the cryptocurrency industry that have speculated when the traditional vehicles, traditional financial tools, and options available would then be applied in the cryptocurrency world, even though at the time those systems just weren't there. Well, we're at the point where the traditional companies of finance and these traditional institutions want to create these methods and these systems inside cryptocurrency. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about and diving into in this news. So before we get into that, like this video, feel free to leave your comments and your thoughts in the box below, and follow us over on SteemIt, where you can give this an upvote and be a part of cryptocurrency and be a part of the community and be using the new tools and technology out there, and not just a long-term holder, knowing where this space is going and what's in store for us as we get into it and we're talking about it here. So with that being said, let's dive into the market, look into the news, and let's discuss. So starting over here at coinmarketcap.com, quickly, we have 866 different cryptocurrencies out there. It's quite a bit, adding a couple every day it seems, and our total market cap has taken a dip. We are at $146 billion. 24-hour trading volume has been 3.8, almost $3.9 billion in the past 24 hours, lower almost by half of what we have been seeing in the past week or so. So we saw lots of money being traded up and down, the market's going up, and then now the markets have taken this breather down. A lot of fiat has exited the cryptocurrency space, and a lot of that has happened on the news of China having banned cryptocurrencies and or the ICOs inside inside the nation of China. But with that being said, it's really difficult for any nation to ban cryptocurrency, and if cryptocurrency is starting to frighten a nation or frighten different people in the world about its potential, then maybe that means that the blockchain technology is doing its job, creating a new source of decentralized trust in the world. Our Bitcoin dominance, I believe, is increasing slightly. We're at 47%, excuse me, still in between that 45 and 50% for Bitcoin. Bitcoin overall, $69 billion, 24-hour trading volume. Looks like it's been the most over here at $1.5 billion traded, roughly about even where it's been in the past 24 hours, about $4,182, $4,200. And Ethereum, relatively low. Bitcoin Cash, relatively low. Everything is relatively low since we took this breather. And Neo and Omizigo fighting for that number 11 position. Omizigo had taken over that position. Then Neo has taken it back. I'm super bullish on Omizigo. Vitalik Buterin is personally advising just 2 different ICOs out there, and OmiseGo is one of them. OmiseGo is going to be working with the Ethereum blockchain as its own blockchain as a solely proof of stake system, which means you'll be able to, when this materializes, you'll be able to make new tokens, be able to collect fees from just holding OmiseGo OMG tokens inside your wallet. And just by holding those tokens in your wallet, after this blockchain is created, you'll be collecting the transaction fees from those OMG tokens. And so that's a way to not just hold tokens that could increase in value substantially over time, as it already has, but it could be a way to make additional revenue, passive income every month with the OMG tokens. A lot like you can do with PIVX, the PIVX token, which is a 100% proof of stake blockchain technology. And looking over at the BTC price of some of these, we see that some of these are up relatively. So Litecoin is up 5.4% compared to the Bitcoin price overall. Ethereum Classic up 4.4%. I think Litecoin and Ethereum Classic are undervalued, as maybe you've seen from the past couple of videos that we put out there. And yeah, so a lot of interesting things happening out there. Bitcoin Cash down from where it was at 0.135 down to 1.269. And yeah, and popping over into Reddit, we have someone over here who bought their first Bitcoin today, and they're saying that they feel alive. So are you learning about Bitcoin? Have you purchased your first Bitcoin yet? Has anyone ever given you any Bitcoin? You know, or are you on the fence, and you're just not sure how to do that? You know, there's Coinbase and the links below. You can sign up. Perhaps Coinbase is available where you live, and if it's not, there must be some way for you to get your hands on a little bit of Bitcoin. And once you do, you know, just being able to add to that as you can every month, or whatever your steps are. But just as this person was saying, they've been following Bitcoin anxiously for years, skeptical of the rise and nervous of the fall. But today they took the plunge and they're never looking back. And at what point, you know, do we take that decision where we get into Bitcoin, you know, and we understand the potential that this has to not just support our lives in terms of a safety net, but to perhaps accelerate our lives to the next level by being a part of the revolutionary technology that promises to be a greater invention than internet or electricity or, you know, sliced bread, I suppose. So we have this tweet over here from Mr. Lopp saying blockchains governed by enterprises are no more secure than financial networks governed by nation states. Corporations are easily regulated. And so that's just always important to keep in mind, that the Bitcoin is not controlled by a corporation. Now there is Blockstream, and Blockstream is a corporation, but Blockstream is developing code and second layer protocols, but Bitcoin itself is still decentralized, and no one person or organization can control the future of Bitcoin, as we've seen with the block size increase debate over, you know, the past couple of years. And you have that same sort of freedom of regulation for Bitcoin as you do for blockchains such as Ethereum and Monero and Litecoin, and all of these you know, different tokens out there, even to a large degree Dash and PIVX and these decentralized blockchain technologies. All right, so turning to the news and seeing what we have over here in the news today, we have this one article coming out of Cointelegraph.com talking about Bitcoin shorting and creating financial institutions to create opportunities to short Bitcoin, short the Bitcoin marketplace, and asking if this is going to stabilize the Bitcoin marketplace and for cryptocurrency. And so There's several different alternatives to buying Bitcoin that this article goes into, say, such as the GBT or BTCX and GBTC, different alternatives out there. And you have banking on derivatives and alternatives to short the market. And we have this one organization, places like the Chicago Board Options Exchange, which is the biggest U.S. options exchange. And it's said that it's planned to offer Bitcoin futures later this year or early next year. Additionally, there's other companies that are really interested in this as well, in creating these derivatives and these options futures market. And so derivatives are currently not an option, but they're on the edge of becoming a chance for investors to both bet on the leading cryptocurrency climbing higher, or their particular cryptocurrency sagging lower. And so if you're not familiar, the derivatives and the options or futures are very different from the exchanges that most people are operating under today. And that the exchanges, people are just buying and selling at the price of whatever it is right now. But if the price of something right now is $100 or $1,000 or $3,000, and you want to bet what that price is going to be 7 days from now or 30 days from now, then you can sell the thing that you have for a different price in the future. And you can be, the price could be one thing today. You could be selling it for a future price. And basically, why does that make sense to sell it higher or sell it lower in the future? If you think that price is going to go higher or lower in the future, that would make sense to and you don't have the money to buy it or sell it later. You want to buy it or sell it now for that future price. You can do that with these vehicles. And so if you have, for example, inside information that something is going to happen, then, that's not legal. But if you know that there's going to be a big announcement on a certain date, or that something is going to happen on a certain date for better or for worse, then you can buy or sell your thing before then. For example, when the whole housing bubble happened and then that market blew up with the housing stocks that were packaged together, and you had all the interest rates that were being collected from all the different mortgages packed up in these different, AAA rated investment vehicles. Well, there were people who had these investment vehicles, and then there were markets that people could take these investment vehicles, these mortgage derivatives, which were at the time very, very, let's say expensive. They were upper end stuff. They were practically guaranteed to make you money. And people knew that the housing bubble was going to collapse, and they took these mortgage-based assets and they sold them in the future for the same price or a higher price or a slightly lower price than what they were today, or however that worked, knowing that all of that was about to be worthless in the future, and they were able to get rid of it ahead of time. And so that was just their way of selling something at a future price, even though the price at that moment was different than what the market was, right? This is complicated financial stuff. That's why none of this is financial advice, and you should definitely be speaking with a financial advisor if you're looking into any of this stuff traditionally, or if you plan on getting into any of this in the cryptocurrency space, because this is just really, really complex and is a way that people lose lots and lots of money because it's so easy to just have something go the other way and for you to lose everything that you have. It's in a lot of ways gambling for most people. So this article goes on to say from All-Star Milne, a portfolio manager at Altana Digital Currency Fund, a cryptocurrency focused hedge fund, has said that ultimately the more liquidity that there is, the more volatility will fall, reducing costs all around. And that in essence, this will help the two-way price discovery and help improve the overall market by helping people understand, what some people are betting on the price to be in the future is higher and what some people are betting on the price to be in the future is lower. And by, taking 100% of everyone that's betting in the future price and understanding that some people are betting higher, some people are betting lower, pooling, crowdsourcing all those people's guesses together is going to help these markets determine what the actual price of Bitcoin is, and is going to give people information, in terms of understanding what today's price, the percentage of accuracy perhaps today's price is based on the futures trading of the Bitcoin market or the cryptocurrency market. And so it goes on to say that, is it truly gold or is it a highly inflated asset? We don't know now, but we soon will. When people realize the potential scale of the shorts that will build up, they will probably get nervous. So, and that's really interesting. And so what does he mean by the potential scale of the shorts? And so there could just be a lot of people shorting Bitcoin for that price to fall. And, or there could be a lot of, and they've been, people have been wrong before. And so if there's a lot of people that are not shorting that price to fall and who are betting that that price is going to skyrocket, if today's price is $3,000 in a futures market, you would be able to purchase that Bitcoin at the future price of $5,000 or $3,000, and then today's price could be different. Again, it just gets really, really complicated. This could work in either direction. I guess what makes me nervous is that if a lot of people are betting in one direction and they have a mathematical advantage for have that bet to come true, and they can set up some sort of purchasing of Bitcoin, and it's just normal buying and selling and trading stuff where there is market manipulation that is possible, and this does create more options, if you will, more variables available for people to speculate into Bitcoin, to put money in and out of Bitcoin that will affect the number of Bitcoins that people are required to hold, and then to essentially instantly or near instantly buy and sell those Bitcoins back into the marketplace, which in some ways to me seems as if this could actually add volatility. I suppose what I would want to underline or emphasize after all that is just to recognize that the more people that get involved in Bitcoin, the more people that get involved in cryptocurrency, there's going to be the more demand for this token overall. And with higher demand for the token overall, and with the increasingly limited supply that is going to be released into the world, with the increasing amount of hoarding of everyone who has the ability to have Bitcoin or has Bitcoin now, or who will have Bitcoin within the next couple of years, the direction that the overall market is going is still going to be up. It's still going to be one way. It's still going to be to the moon. But this does create additional tools and resources for people with a lot of capital to help them make money no matter what happens. If Bitcoin goes up, they can make money. If Bitcoin goes down, they can make money. They can have money in the futures options. They can have money in the hedge funds. They could have Bitcoin. They could be holding Bitcoin directly with private keys and ledger nano S's. And so it just creates a lot of different variables and a lot of different confusion for everybody out there. Overall, I think it's a good idea to not risk what you can't afford to lose, to consider dollar cost averaging into the market, and to be extremely careful about FUD. And when there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt in the market, just recognize that's maybe a good time to buy, or a good time to hold, or a good time to pay extra close attention of who's throwing that fear around. Because when there's blood in the streets, then that's when a lot of the hawks and the sharks and the whales come in and they purchase what's there. And when there's a lot of hype in the market, that's when a lot of these sharks and these whales will then unload and then collect their profits from everyone who are just getting into the market. People who are getting into the market in a fear of missing out because they're just hearing about the hype, right? 9 times out of 10, the markets go up because of the hype, and they come back down to, or at least a reasonable level for other traders to get back in and not to be purchasing at the highest point, right? just like when we were hearing about Bitcoin be $5,000, it's perhaps not the best time to purchase Bitcoin because the market's going to go up and the market's going to go down, or to consider that whole dollar cost averaging. Yet here we are, and here this is, and this could be happening with these options and derivatives and futures market as soon as mid to end of 2018. All right. So real quick, let's go into derivatives at a super high level. A derivative is a contract that derives its value from the performance of an underlying entity. So derivatives can be used for a number of purposes, including insuring against price movements such as hedging one direction or the other, increasing exposure to price movements for speculation, or getting access to otherwise hard to trade assets or markets. And so you might not be able to trade in a particular market, but you may be able to trade in the derivative of that market. And so there's different types of derivatives. There's the OTC and exchange traded derivatives. There's the common derivatives, collateralized derivatives, credit default swaps, forwards, futures, mortgage-backed options, swaps, all sorts of crazy stuff out there. Way, way, way over my head. Be careful out there. All right. And so there's just a lot of people talking about Bitcoin, a lot of people talking about the economy, and a lot of people talking about what's in store for the finances of the world and finances of America moving forward. And so as this relates to Bitcoin, we have this photo here, pretty legendary photo at this point, when the Honorable Janet Yellen was at a congressional hearing 2017, a couple months ago now, talking about the auditing of the Federal Reserve. And there's this guy back here with the Buy Bitcoin sign. And so separately from this was in 2007, but in 2009, January 3rd, 2009, we have this line up here, the Times, 3 January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. And so this headline is saved permanently in the very first block of the Bitcoin blockchain. This is known as the Genesis block. It not only signifies the date that Bitcoin began, but it also serves as a message to the world on why Bitcoin exists in the first place. And so people need to understand that the reason Bitcoin exists wasn't for as another, or the first ICO sort of speculation. It exists because it was an alternative to the current financial system, which was failing people to an extreme order of magnitude at a very scary time in the world. And so nobody can safely say for certain, as we often let people know, if Bitcoin will actually succeed. We don't know if Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million or to zero. We're just guessing, and it's a personal opinion that the value of Bitcoin will increase. We're guessing it's going to increase. We have faith it's going to increase. But what we do know for sure, what we can say for certain, is that the world will experience another global financial crisis. And that's just the cycle of it. Debt is created. And when a debt is created, it's an asset for the banks, or an asset for the lender, but it's a debt for the holder. And they create that new money, they have that new money, and they're spending that new money, and it's doing great for the economy. But what happens with all that debt is that it builds up, and eventually that debt needs to get paid back. And now sometimes the debt is a good thing, because you can use that debt and you can purchase tools or resources to become more productive for, as a family, or be more productive as a business. Or you can use that debt to buy a new TV, and that new TV is not going to make you more productive, and so it's going to decrease, your productivity or how much you're doing. And so sometimes debt could be good, or sometimes debt could be bad. But the world's been creating a lot of debt, almost on purpose, to a degree of magnitude of epic proportions. I don't like to use the word epically lightly. And so we're at a point where we just know that the world is going to experience this financial crisis or correction, or something in some degree with banks decreasing interest rates, perhaps going negative with their interest rates. We've seen Federal Reserve governors and Harvard professors talking about removing the $50 or $100 bill from circulation, all as a part of the system to, have capital controls, to print more money than the money that's being created out, have capital controls on the money that's able to leave the system altogether, dropping the interest rates, which isn't helping the savers at all. Yeah, and so Bitcoin is just interesting because Bitcoin is sort of like a life raft. Bitcoin has a lot of the properties that gold has had, being inverse, like a hedge to the way that fiat dollars typically behave. The difference is that it's really difficult to take gold and to use gold to purchase things because it's hard to break down that gold, and it's hard to carry that gold, and it's hard to store that gold safely. And so Bitcoin is really interesting, and just we were talking about that person earlier that got their first Bitcoin and how that is really awesome for them, and how some people just are always feeling as if Bitcoin is too expensive. And I think that if we look at places like Venezuela and we understand, how their money is hyperinflated, and how, it's not outside the realms of possibility for the US dollar to inflate more than just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%, and at that point recognizing that $4.20 for a millibit, 0.001 Bitcoin, might seem too expensive now, but this author's prediction is that it will skyrocket further when it becomes one of the only assets that isn't crumbling during the next financial meltdown, which the last one was about 9 years ago. And are we due for another one? How are things going in the world? It's really interesting. So we don't get a vote in how the Federal Reserve votes. We don't get a vote in how the government votes. But we do get a vote with where our money goes. We do get a vote with how we spend our dollars. We do get a vote with if we have any Bitcoins. And we do get to decide if we're going to get any Bitcoin before we know that we need to have any Bitcoin. In other news, real quick, just to go over some interesting things that have come out. The South Korean courts have declared that Bitcoin confiscation is illegal. And so the South Korea is a super progressive country. South Korea is south to North Korea, which is the country, the regime which recently launched or exploded the hydrogen bomb inside their mountain. North of North Korea is China, so it's China and then North Korea, then South Korea. And so South Korea, which is the progressive sort of awesome place in the world, is that this could be sending shock waves through regulatory bodies, not just in South Korea, but across the entire globe. And because this could be setting a precedent and creating the idea, the concept, the precedent, the belief, the regulation that Bitcoin itself cannot be confiscatable as a confiscatable commodity. And so the question is, could this be a trend for other nations in the world? It's interesting and it's hard to say, but this does create the opportunity for that to happen. And so Bitcoin as a digital currency has no physical representation, and thus it essentially has nothing, it is nothing to be confiscated. And that's what the courts were saying about this. Very, very interesting. We know this is not the case inside America, where tens of thousands and tens of thousands of Bitcoin have been confiscated from all sorts of cases, such as the Silk Road case. In other news, with a constant back and forth coming out of Russia, the Russian finance minister says that there's no point at all, apparently, in prohibiting cryptocurrencies because they know it's not going to work. They said banning cryptocurrencies does not make sense, and that the ministry will likely treat digital monies similarly to securities. Going on to say that the state certainly understands that cryptocurrencies are a reality, but that there's no point in prohibiting them. It's possible to regulate them, which means that it's not possible to make them illegal. So the finance ministry will draw up a bill by the end of this year. And so again, this has been going back and forth if they were going to make them illegal, prohibit them for the common person. They recognized very quickly there's no way by saying that they were going to regulate, prohibit them from the common person, prohibit them from the ordinary people. People were just going to create these black markets, just know that Bitcoin was the money that they should have because Bitcoin was the money that they were told that they shouldn't have. And so that's not going to work. Regulation is the only way that this is going to work for any country moving forward because these are not regulatable. And if the blockchain is regulatable, if you're working with or buying into a blockchain that's dependent on a single company or organization to exist, if that organization went away and that blockchain went away, then that's probably not a blockchain that we would recommend. Okay. So again, they're really focused on the volatility, and they want to really control the volatility, which means they really want to add the regulation. And then when they say they don't want to see the price jump 10% in one direction and then another day jump into the 10% the other direction, that's them saying they want to have control over Bitcoin. That's them saying they want to have control over the blockchains or the cryptocurrencies. And so it's going to be really interesting just to see how their laws play out and how their laws are similar and different to other nations in the world, like America, like South Korea, and then everywhere in between there. I suppose like places like the European Union. And so in the last article here, we have the European Union, which has now invested over 5 million euros in blockchain startups. And so these 5 million euros invested is about 6 million USD across startups that are working on all different various projects across blockchain. And so there's a little bit of additional information here about what's going on in some of these specific companies that have these different projects. But what's most important is that the European Union and the European commissions of small and medium-sized enterprises group are creating this underlying foundation called the so-called blockchain observatory, which would act as a research and outreach office with the technology sector, because the European Union wants to bring blockchain to Europe, just like Dubai wants to make Dubai the Silicon Valley of blockchain technology. Putin wants to make Moscow or St. Petersburg the center of blockchain technology. Everybody wants to make their location the center of Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and it's a very delicate balance for them to accept these companies, to accept these people, to accept these philosophies, while at the same time doing their best to create the rules and regulations without restricting their ability to be part of the revolution. So with that being said, that's a lot of news, that's a lot of information talking about the United States options industry, creating this mega options market, this mega futures contract market for cryptocurrency. Are you? I know most people are not going to be excited about that. Are you excited about that? I want to know what is the good about that, because I know that a lot of people see a lot of bad in that. What are the reasons that you support the futures market for Bitcoin? If you support it, I mean, I suppose it's going to be more money going into the space, and that could increase the overall demand for the Bitcoin token itself. But is manipulation possible? Is this just unjustified speculation that it could create market manipulation? And then what about South Korea making Bitcoins non-confiscatable, and how that's going to create different demand for people in South Korea to desire Bitcoins, knowing that it's an asset or a commodity that can't be taken away from you? Or what do you think about Russia, where Russia is saying, hey, we can't make these illegal, so we're going to let people have them, we're just going to regulate them. But could it be possible that Russia just wants more people in Russia to have Bitcoin, because when the proverbial stuff hits the fan, then it'll be more people, more Russians that have the currency, which will go up for everybody in the world. And if all of that is little pieces of digital gold, and more of that digital gold is being held by people of a particular nation, then that particular nation is going to be able to benefit from the wealth and from the economies that are created from the people that have, you know, that digital gold. So yeah, so I suppose I wonder if, you know, you have your digital gold. Do your friends and family have your digital gold? There's so few wallet addresses out there, and there's so few Bitcoin. As the value goes up, I just wish everybody could have a wallet. I wish everybody could have a little bit of Bitcoin in it. And it's crazy that it's just not possible. I would love to be able to reach everybody, or for everybody to understand the importance of understanding the Bitcoin and blockchain technology, to having a blockchain address, and then to, you know, just playing around with just a little bit of this token, just sending it, you know, to other people in your family to understand what's going on before people recognize what's happening, because they see the futures trading is indicating some data of some things to come, some things which you and I may already be well aware of. So with that being said, like this video, go visit us on SteemIt. We'll be creating some more videos very soon. Stay tuned for those. Until then, I'm glad that together we're minting coins.